Hello, everyone. My name is Raabiha, and this is the lovely Coco joining us today on the Gentlewoman's podcast. Hello, Coco. How are you?
Really, really well. Glad to be here. And thank you for inviting me on here.
Thank you for saying yes before you fly away tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. So I'm looking forward to this holiday. It's one of my friends from university is coming and my bestie from kindergarten too. So really, really good.
That's amazing. And I'm quite excited for today's episode. And I'm so honored that you are going to share your story with everyone. And I'm going to let you lead this story, Coco. Can you tell the audience that don't know your story what was happening those many years ago behind closed doors? What was happening, Coco?
I now sort of liken it to when you lift off a dental veneer and you have misshapen teeth, you have caries under there, you have staining, discoloration. And in the same way, what goes on behind somebody's closed doors, you just never get an insight. All you see is, a wonderful family that there they are living in a grand house with 5 cars in the driveway. The kids go to private school. They have a few practices, etc. But nobody ever sort of gets a look in on what lies behind that. So like veneer, there is all sorts and all manner of things that goes on behind many marriages. It wasn't just mine alone. It's other people's as well. And often in things like social media nowadays, when we look at things, there is a portrayal of things that this is what happens in somebody's life, but it actually isn't.
No.
There's other things that go on behind the scenes that we don't know of, we don't hear of. It can be things like my journey where it involved abuse. What happened to me was when I was at university, I had met someone and he literally put me on a pedestal. He was absolutely lovely, charmed me no end. But unfortunately, when I got married to him, he then started gaslighting me. And perhaps it happened before, and I don't think I realized until much later on that I'd been gaslit. The abuse, I felt that from within sort of a few weeks of getting married. He'd attacked me. I'd told his parents. They kind of brushed it aside.
Physically attack?
Physically attacked me, yeah. That then gave him the carte blanche to then, look, my parents are not going to pull me up on this, so I can do what I wish with her. And my parents lived abroad. They did not live here. And it was really, really tough because, you don't want your parents to, and your family, your friends to think of it because you chose to get married to this person. And I was with him for 3.5 years before we got married. So it wasn't like it was suddenly 6 months later, I decided to marry somebody. So, I suppose you could say he, had built a good reputation for himself. Now, looking back, I realized that there is a cycle of abuse, that putting you up on a pedestal, giving you that princess treatment, and then slowly, bit by bit, isolating you. I got isolated from my family, from some of my friends, and then bit by bit, knocking you down and then attacking you, sometimes physically, sometimes emotionally. And you then sort of become lesser and lesser the person that you were. I, at the end, was not the person that I was going into the relationship. People like that tend to be like magpies. They love to collect nice things. They love to collect people who are doing well, people who they see as this is my trophy. And so in one breath, he would show off to his friends who I was, etc., what I did. But in the other thing, I'd be not. So I'd be so confused as to what my identity was. And that was robbed of me. I never at that point achieved my potential. I got lost. It was hard.
The first time he hit you, Coco, This is what a lot of question that comes up in women's minds. Obviously, those that haven't been in this situation, they think, oh, if my partner hit me, I would just leave. What happened the first time he physically assaulted
Now
you?
I would leave. Now I would be like, right, that's it. I'm not taking this. But then, no, it was, you get brought up with certain ideas that marriage is for life and that you try and work through things. And being dentists, we are healers. And especially when you're being told it's your fault, and that's what they often do. They say to you, oh, it's because of you that I had to hit you. No one, absolutely no one has a right to hit you, to abuse you, no one. But it's a difficult thing. And if you look at research papers and everything, the statistics are scary. It takes 20 times on average before a woman in an abusive relationship will raise the alarms. They find it hard to leave because you're trauma bonded. And the person kind of says to you, oh, we make a great team. It's us against everybody else. And then at one moment you're thinking, oh, okay, like this is being sorted out. We're a great team. But then the next thing is you get hit and then you think, well, where's the team in this? You're like in a tumble dryer almost, like just spinning and thinking, suddenly something comes and sideswipes you. And it can happen in a matter of days. It can happen in months. I was in a relationship with him for 24 years. 19 of those married to him. So you then think to yourself, if an educated woman can go through that, it's tough.
Coco can earn her own money. She's educated. She's got friends, contacts. Surely this couldn't happen to her. Like when I first heard your story, I was like, and I realized how misinformed I was, that I thought it could only happen to someone who didn't have the financial means to leave or didn't have any friends and they were isolated and that's what could happen. But hearing your story, it can happen to anyone.
Yeah, it crosses all cultures. It crosses all socioeconomic groups. There's that big myth that a lot of people think it happens in lower socioeconomic classes. It happens everywhere. It was very difficult for me because I thought, what do I do? I've got the businesses all entwined. There's the roof over my head. There's my kids. How do I leave? What do I do? Who do I tell as well?
Did you tell anyone ever? Or hid?
I never told anybody. I carried it around. I told his parents, but obviously they didn't believe me. So, I'd lived in an extended family system with them. And, they would see these things happen and they'd say to me, oh, maybe try and please him. Like, why don't you cook him this or do that? Definitely was not a bad wife. I definitely was not a bad daughter-in-law. To those who are trying to get out of these relationships and things, you are not a bad person. Never ever believe that. Are in fact quite the opposite, because you are there striving and trying hard to make things work. But you have to realize at some point that that's it. You have to get off that merry-go-round. You can only control certain things in life, and that is yourself, your emotions, etc. If somebody is not willing to change, somebody is abusive, you can't control that. You can't control their family and what they do. Though I had later on spoken to his sisters about it, and they then did speak to him about it, and he turned around and lied and said it was only the once said to them, and then after that threatened me. So, it's like, if you open your mouth, be careful for what's going to happen to you, was, what I experienced.
Terrifying.
It was really, really awful.
With your injuries, any that bad that meant you had to go to the hospital? Was there any doctors? Like, I don't know the extent of the abuse. Like, surely somebody picked up, was it 19 years, 14 years?
See, now people will flag it up, but then it was less. We didn't have these sort of protective measures. Nobody turned around and said, well, you've come here into hospital with this. Are you being abused? We need to speak to you about this. And this is a safe space. And, there weren't things like Angela's things now, and restaurants and all. We have all these signs up that You know, you can tell somebody. No one actually pulled up on it. And the one time when things were so bad, he actually got in the ambulance with me and he said to me, you have to think of what story you're going to tell them. Tell me the story before you get in, and that better be the story you're going to speak out to them. So there, you're scared to open your mouth, scared to say anything. So you spin a story, right? Just to survive. I was in survival mode all the time.
Story do you even spin?
You know, you'd say something like, "Oh, I opened the cupboard too quickly and banged myself in the head." The time that I was going into hospital in the ambulance, I had said to them I was mopping up some juice, and he'd come running into a room and fallen over me. So you tell a believable story because you know what the consequences will be if you hold the truth. Or I was scared of what the consequences could have been. In my head there was too many things going on to then sit down and really think to myself, you've got to get out.
What was that moment where you thought, that's it, not protecting me anymore, I'm done with this? Was there a specific moment when you were just like, something has to change?
It was when I came home one day and my daughter had said he'd attacked my son, and I thought, that's it. Previously to that, there was a day when I had thought, okay, I've mustered up enough strength and going to call in the lawyers the next time he attacks me, hits me. And so I did, but he then said he knew that there was a 6-month period of time from which you could prosecute. And he said, oh, I'll change, I'll do this, I'll do that. But it was, no, absolutely not. I should not have sat there and believed that. I should have gone with the strength that I had. But it was, you're like mother hen. The moment it then starts on one of your children, you then think, no, this is a different battle. And my daughter actually turned around to me and she said, Mummy, she said, what are you going to do? Are you going to wait and stay here? And then my brother go off to university, then I go off to university, and then you're left here alone with him. And you then realize that that little girl is looking at you to see what you're going to do. That little girl who before wanted you to stay because she was 8, 9 years old and she didn't want to see her family fall apart like most kids. But then at 12, 13, she suddenly saw this and thought, this is not right. And she's then going to go out into the world, and is she then, like, what I've been through, am I then going to set that as an example for her, that I took it? So in your relationship, you sit there and you take it, like we have generational traumas like that within our own communities. That's why I stepped up, because I thought I need to be the change. I need for her to realize my mum went through this, but she just got up and thought, right, that's it, not doing this anymore. So it was the kids. I then had to step up and think, what am I doing to my children, And they're seeing this all the time. My gosh, awful, but I carried around a lot of guilt for what I put them through. But I went through a lot of therapy and coaching and things, and I no longer carry it around as shame because, I was initially told, this is really shameful. How dare you go out there and bring shame upon our family? This is what my ex-husband's family told me. When I told my mum and dad that I was going to leave and that this is what has happened, my mum and dad turned around and said to me, we will stand by you, we will stand by everything, and we will tell people our daughter is going to stand up for other men and women out there who are being abused. And, I'm going to burn that light bright and shiny and just say, get up, get out, it's okay, I've got you, and it was hard.
I think that's what scares a lot of people of leaving these situations, of how to do it, how difficult it will be, the support.
It is, because for me, the big thing was that I kept sitting there thinking to myself, how are the kids going to get to school? They have no uniform, no toothbrushes. As a dentist, you're like, if I leave the house in the middle of the night. And then, like, somebody said to me, Coco, just pack a bag and put their school uniform in there, put a set of toiletries in there and it will be okay. And just hide that like in the practice or somewhere. And so that's what I did. That gave me that little bit of strength, that little bit of, it's like that window of hope that like it will be okay.
Is that a friend of yours that gave you that boost?
No, it was actually a therapist that I'd gone to see. And, you know, she said, go, no, you can do it. This is one thing that I'll say to you, anybody who's there, that you will like get out and it will be tough. It will be hard. But what comes after is so good. I would say this in that 8 years post-divorce or 7.5 years post-divorce, I'm really happy. You may sit there and you may think, I want that, I want to do this, I want to do that. This is how I want my life to be after. Understand that it may not all be what you hope it would be, but it would actually be better than that, because some of the things that you hope and you want for, you don't actually need those. You need something else. So it's like, it's good, you know? It's good, but it's really, really important to have that support network behind you.
Did you have that at work? That our teams in dentistry are so big. You've got your nurse, sometimes you might tell somebody at work. But I guess because you own the business together, isn't it?
Yes, but I also worked in practices independently. So they were absolute stars, honestly. They were really, really good to me and the kids. You know, shout out to all of them. Bless them. It was an all-female practice. Those women were just amazing, and I'm still like in touch with all of them. They are a super, super group. You know, everyone had things going on in their lives. Everybody does. But we had each other's backs, you know, which was really good. And I say this, that practice life can be very, very lonely. And really hard, especially as a principal. You know, you're there, you're leading your team, you're holding everybody together, you're accountable for your work family, but your work family can be a great place too, you know? And I had great friends. I have even greater friends, you know, friends, family. Oh my gosh, they're just like wonderful. So really, really a great thing that I say to everybody is build your village. Build that
Yes.
village from, be it like your friends, your family, the teachers from your children's school, you know, all these people that are there to support you and to support the kids, your doctors, your everything. Even more importantly than having your village and your tribe is to have that important inner circle. And that inner circle are those like 4 or 5 people who are there who will turn around and say to you, get going. What are you doing? Right?
Coco, didn't you say you were isolated and that's what they do? So these women that might be in the situation that are isolated and they've lost that inner circle, where do they go about rebuilding that to give them the courage to now exit?
So that's what I say. You need to set that up. You need to have those trusted people that you can talk to. Yes, you have your village, you know, everyone looking after your kids, you, your school, your nurse, your practice manager, your everything. But that inner circle is those 4 or 5 people who you can turn to. You know, I then built that and had that because I knew that I would need them. So it only happened much later on. And now too, you know, I have my village, my tribe, a big gang of friends and everything within dentistry as well. But more importantly, I have that inner circle, and that inner circle are people like, you know, my life coaches, my personal trainer, and some of my friends from dental school and my kindergarten besties, you know?
Love that you have those.
And they're like, come on, what are you doing? No, get going. Right?
You know, when you were talking earlier, sorry to take you back, but you mentioned the physical abuse and you mentioned the gaslighting. This is something I didn't want to forget to ask you, is that only recently I found out there's lots of different types of abuse. And what do they look like, and what should people be looking out for? Because I think this is something that's not very well known. It's physical abuse, so that's it. Nobody knows about the other types. What are the other types?
A lot of people think domestic violence and they think to themselves, okay, that's physical abuse and not being hit, so that's not abuse. But domestic violence, the whole thing encompasses a lot of things. So there's the physical abuse, there's the emotional abuse, right? You know, you're not good enough, those kind of things. There is the financial control, right? Where this is our money, this is only what you can spend, you can't do this. I'm going away on holiday with my friends, but you're not allowed to go away on holiday. I'm going out to restaurants and things. You can come out with me, but you can't go with your friends. That, like, you may want to spend some money on, like, going to see a therapist, but it comes out of the family money, you know, the pot that you put together, that may get seen, etc. So all those things are there. There's also the you know, coercive control. There is also spiritual abuse, whereby you can't go to the temple, you can't go to the mosque. Why are you going to celebrate Eid with your family? Why are you celebrating Christmas? We're not, you know, you can't have a Christmas tree in our house. We're Hindus, you know, that kind of stuff. I grew up in a multicultural island, so very much brought up with celebrating everything, right? We have public holidays for Eid, for Diwali, for Christmas, for Chinese New Year.
Beautiful.
And I embrace all of that. And I've brought up my children to enjoy these celebrations and things. And you know, you can get controlled with those kind of things. That, you know, somebody can turn around and go, no, I don't want you to visit. You may both be Muslim, but they can turn around and say, oh, I don't want you to visit your parents for Eid. That has to get, you know, celebrated with my family and nobody else. Those kind of things are control as well. So it's all that under that umbrella of abuse, you know, asking you to do things you're not happy about doing sexually. You know, it may be certain things within the intimacy of the two of you, or they may decide that they may want to bring other people into this, or that it's okay that, you know, the two of you are married, but, you know, I'm going off elsewhere and doing all this other stuff as well. So that too is abuse, right, within a relationship, because you're both not agreeing on that, right?
Yeah. I think that's the underlying thing. If you're not agreeing, gosh, there's so many forms.
You know, people have to realize that it's not acceptable. It's not, absolutely not acceptable. You know,
for you, the tricky thing was that your husband's a narcissist. So people would say, oh, he's so lovely, so charming. So, you know, that emotional manipulation that he would kind of use against you, and you mentioned it, that must have been so difficult for you.
It was very hard in that, you know, we're brought up to look at everybody kindly and to look at people in good light and everything. The charm, the wonderfulness of him is absolutely lovely. Honestly, hand on my heart, it is. But the flip side, that Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, it's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. Never in my mind did I realize that there was such a thing as a narcissist. Never did I realize that people would control, you know, somebody could control you in this way. You know, you'd be blindsided, you'd be sideswept by the one day everything's really great, and then suddenly you get called all kinds of names under the table, you know, the gaslighting, the everything that went with it. And I never understood things like, you know, things about psychopaths and sociopaths and, you know, narcissistic personality disorder. It was only one day when I thought to myself, goodness me, this man is yelling, screaming, shouting all the time. He's never happy with anything. You know, I'm forever like trying to make him happy. So I thought I'll look up. And this was the early days of the internet. And I thought I'll look up how to deal with an angry man. And then I came across this word, narcissism. And it stems from the god Narcissus, who looked at his image inside the lake and thought he was wonderful. I'd studied Greek for my A-levels, known about him, but didn't realize there was a personality disorder named after him. And I was then shocked with what I found. And it kind of like made it clear to me, okay, this is what the man is. And it kind of shocked me. And then I thought, okay, what am I supposed to do? How do I get myself out of this, right? You know, and you can suggest therapy to a narcissist, but they never think there's anything wrong with them. And a lot of therapists won't deal with narcissists, right?
Who's going to fix them then? They're unfixable.
No, they will have. There are specialists who will deal with them, but just not everyone can, you know, because they'll lie to you, they'll charm you, you'll think to yourself, wow, this person is so lovely.
You must have been so confused, Coco. Like, how do you even trust yourself? You must have been like, no, but he's so lovely, he gets on with everyone. And then you'd be like, he's going, like, it must have made you doubt yourself. You must have completely lost yourself in those years as to who you are. Like, how do you even get back from that, like, confusion to who you were?
Really hard. When I actually decided that's it, I then sat there and thought to myself, right now, where is the me? Who is the me? Like, who am I? Right? Where have I got lost in? And I then went in for therapy. And I will say this to those of you who are out there seeking therapy. Somebody, you know, go see a few therapists before you find someone who will work for you. Don't just go to the first person that you see, because not everybody's going to work for you. You know, and if you go to group therapy as well, but like, for example, I was sent to a group therapy session and I came back and because my children were under a protection order, and they had said, look, you know, you really need to look into healing yourself so that you can help your kids and all that. So they sent me to a group therapy session, and I came back and I said to the police, to the schools and everything at this roundtable discussion that we'd have every month, I said, I can't go there. I would rather go find something else, because at that place, women that I've come across there are so anti-men. And I have a dad, a brother. I have patients who are male. I can't, that's not a therapy group. That is a man-hating, man-bashing group. And that is not going to be a part of my healing process. And that should never be a part of anybody's healing process. Men need women, women need men. We kind of balance each other out. I realized it wasn't a healthy way to go forward. It was vital that I, for the sake of my family, for the sake of my, you know, my son, you know, my patients, that I healed well. You know, so I went in for therapy to sort of talk about things, to kind of do the healing journey. But then I realized that therapy alone is not the answer, and that I needed a life coach, and that needed to power me on and to make me go meet my potential, right?
But was it this trauma that you went through in this relationship? Did it impact your relationships going forward in any way? Be it your relationship with your kids, professionally, any romantic relationships? That experience, has it brought any negative impact?
Sometimes I sit there and I think, am I too harsh on, you know, in terms of a relationship going forward? But I am now of the type where, sorry, I won't take any nonsense. I'm not taking any prisoners. I'm not sitting on a merry-go-round. I wouldn't say it's had a negative effect. It's had a more positive effect in that I am a stronger person. I have boundaries. So I have choices, and I don't need to settle. And that's what it is. You know, it's a healthy thing. For example, I then met a really, really lovely guy, was in a relationship with him for about 8.5 years. At the end, we kind of knew that we were there for each other for that journey. And I was then walking onto a different path, and he wanted to be on a different path. And so he looked at me and he was like, you're so busy, you're doing another degree and then another one, and then you're teaching and you're this and it's like I was working to get myself back to where I was, and working for my kids, to put my kids through university, to make sure they were okay and everything. And, you know, I suppose for him, it was, he wanted something else. So it ended in a good way.
It's a healthy relationship.
And it made me realize that, you know, you can have healthy adult relationships and people don't have to walk the whole journey with you. Some people come in and out at different points in your life. They're there to give you a message, to help you along your way, to give you a lesson, you know, and that's fine. That's okay. More recently, I mean, I've gone out dating. And before that, I made sure I sat down and thought, right, I need to kind of sit back for about 6 months, 8 months and decide what I want. Write down a list of things and a list of negotiables, non-negotiables. And I am, you know, single, but very, very happy. I go out dating and it's healthy dating and I'm not willing to settle. I did come across somebody more recently who did try and gaslight me and tried to be controlling. It only sort of came across on sort of date 8 or so, but I was much more switched on. And I was I'm not doing
Put
this.
him in his place. Did you put him in his place like, mate, I've dealt with this shit? Did you like show him a mirror? Like, this is what you're doing, by the way. I feel like, do they even know they're doing it? Like these crazy people.
No, and that was the scary thing in terms of they don't realize. But you know what? For I realized in myself, you can tell somebody and a narcissist is never willing to hear that they are wrong. Well, that's okay. I don't need to sit there and explain till I'm blue in the face. I can tell you once, and if you don't take healthy criticism, then that's fine, you know.
And what you've done now is flipped it. You can't fix a narcissist, but now you're informing the women. You've gone around raising awareness about domestic violence. And I think this is so important. But why would you say it's important that people use their voice to raise awareness about this?
To let the person sort of in these situations realize that they're not alone, to educate the public at large about it. 3, obviously within our own dental community, it is a good thing because, you know, we ourselves will probably see these, you know, people come in. We will see somebody who's involved in abuse come in because people tend to come every 6 months for their checkups. So we at first hand there to sort of pick these things up. So it is important for us to do that. It is important for us to go to schools, universities, to get them to understand, because my starting point of understanding this only came much later on. If I'd known things at school, at university, maybe I would have been the person I am today and said, no, I'm not taking this on board. This is a relationship I don't want, you know, to that person. I also think it is important to also educate families like mother-in-laws, you know, sister-in-laws, brother-in-laws in families. Your own family will fight for you. But I think, you know, you send your son, your daughter into another house and into another household. Let that not become their prison. They need to support them. They need to pull up their sons or daughters who are abusing their partners and be saying to them, this is not right. I need to kind of step in and say, no, you're not doing this to your husband, to your wife, because another thing is people think that it's only something that happens to women. It's things that happen to men too. Men get abused as well. So it's really, really important that we, you know, go around and give these people the sort of chance, you know, to survive, the chance to a better life, the chance to realize their potential in life and not be knocked down, not be sort of put to sort of become a victim. And it's great that so many in the dental world now are coming out and you know, we're doing podcasts on it. You're having a big event on that.
Yes. Do you think it's important for dental professionals? It's not taught at university. It's not a part of our core education. A lot of dentists don't think it's relevant to them. They don't think it's very common. So why is it important to the dental profession to understand domestic abuse?
You know what? It happens within members of staff in our practice, right? Look at myself, right? It's important for us to recognize it could happen to our staff, it could happen to our patients, it could happen to our families. How do we help somebody? What can we do? What tools can we have to support them? And I sincerely believe this has to be a part of the curriculum at dental school. Have to make people understand these things like we do now on, mental health and things as well. It's vitally important that people understand because we all leave dental school, thinking about our careers, thinking about our futures and who we're going to marry and how it is very, very important to sit back and think what the negotiables and non-negotiables are.
Types of abuse we were talking about, there's so many types. 34, and I didn't know about them till like last week.
All those hidden personality types, like it has to be like, how we have our CPDs for, health and safety, CPDs for infection control. We need to have those, the other things as well in there, right? We have mental health now. We're getting more things through about fertility, about miscarriage, about menopause.
I feel like we don't talk about these issues because it's related to women, and most people making decisions and in positions of leadership and in control of education, what goes out there is usually men. And these situations largely, I think, affect women. So I feel like we need to be taking lead in making the changes we ask for and we want. So if we want to be talking about perimenopause, menopause, let's create a network. Let's have the panels, let's have the talks, let's have the podcasts. So we need to drive the change we want to see in the topics we want to discuss. Like, we were talking about the terminology earlier, and I would like you to share it with the listeners. Like, does somebody who's been through domestic abuse be like to be called a survivor or a victim? Like, people don't even know that.
It's, I always say this, if you call yourself a victim, you are associating yourself with the harm and things, and if you call yourself a survivor, then you're looking on the other side, you're associating yourself with the healing. So you need to reframe and you need to sit there and say, I am a survivor. I am not a victim. Don't have that victim mentality. Don't sit there and think to yourself, I should have known, all these things happened to me. I am to blame. What you need to sit there and say is that I am a survivor. I'm resilient. There are things that I shouldn't accept in life and I will overcome these challenges, and I'm going to use this as a springboard to make sure other men and women in the same kind of situation become survivors as well. Always look at what skills does a survivor have, and that the first thing you need to do is you need to sit back and you need to think of what's happened to you and acknowledge the emotions and cry. Like, seriously, sit there and cry. Don't try and bury it. Don't try and sort of go into other coping mechanisms like drugs, like alcohol. Look into having better sort of coping mechanisms. Go to the gym, get a hobby, keep fit, go to dance classes, things that are going to release the happy hormones, the endorphins like oxytocin and all those things that are gonna make you sort of have a more positive outlook to life and things. Be kind to yourself in that healing process.
This is why you became a Zumba instructor. I saw that in your bio once. I was like, she's so cool.
That brings joy, that like dancing releases those happy hormones and the endorphins, and as I said earlier, it's important to have that support network, that village, that tribe. Like, you've set up a support network, within dentistry now, we're getting more and more support networks out there. These are what I call your village and tribe, and it's so important to have that inner circle as well that I spoke about earlier, that the people that are going to be there who are going to pull you up and say, right, what is it you're doing to getting yourself there, to that place. You need to also give yourself the time to rest, to recover, to recharge. You need to understand that you cannot go out there, be dealing with your patients, be bringing up your family without filling up your own cup. As you saw from before, that example which somebody had set as well, where your cup is this full, by the time you pour into those, what do you have, right? It's a really great analogy that, you have to fill your cup up. I used to, up until January this year, I used to think, oh my gosh, I've got to keep myself so busy. I think I was heading for burnout because I was like trying to prove that, yes, I'm out there, I'm going to survive, I'm going to do this, but I was forgetting to relax, to sit back. And so now, once every 6 weeks, I don't book anything for the weekend. I tell people I'm busy and I just sit and chill. I go have a massage, still go to the gym and everything, but just like I barely watch TV. But last night I watched a movie by myself, but it was great. It was really, really good. So we must do those things, give ourselves love yourself first, right? Heal yourself and sit back there and think, if I met myself, would I like myself? And that is important, right? I've had the experience that I've had, and I've had people walk into my life who've helped me and done things for me. And I always give back. I always say to people when they turn around and I'm coaching them through their divorces, their separations, they say, oh, what can I pay you? And I say to them, nothing, just pay it forward, because it's a great movement, because you light somebody else's candle, in turn they light somebody else's. And
The world's a better place. We need more people like this. Oh gosh. Coco, I wanted to end with asking what advice you're going to give out, but I feel like you've just given so much. I feel like I did a live coaching session just now.
What I would say is, if you are in that situation, or if you know of somebody in that situation, be kind to them. That it may be so difficult for them to leave, and just be there for them. Just be there for the day they decide to leave. That's all you have to do. Just say to them, I will be here. When you need me, just say. But they may find it hard to ask. So always keep checking in, and send little messages of strength that help in their positivity and things. Because, gosh, they need those messages, because their world is so negative, and it's so difficult to kind of like pick yourself up. I sat in a place below rock bottom, right? And I literally was burnt to a cinders, and I came out with nothing, right? And I'll say this, walk away with nothing in your pocket, right? And it will be fine, because by the time my divorce went through, there was not a lot left. And I had to restart my life again. As I said right at the very start, it's tough to start with, but my God, where I am now is a lovely, lovely place.
For those of you who haven't met Coco, honestly, I can't describe it. There's very few people I've met like yourself, Coco. You radiate this energy. I would never have known your story had you shared it. I would never imagine in a million years that would have been you. She has this light, this fun, this carefree warmth. I can't describe it. It's just so nice to be around you. That energy is beautiful. I think Coco is a beautiful example of how you can be a true survivor. Honestly, I'm always in awe of you, Coco. You are amazing.
Thank you. And honestly, thank you so much for your time. And the summer holidays can be a hard, hard time for people out there. When I think back to my summer holidays, sometimes they were tough. They were really hard. You think those are the times you're going to have fun, and kids are off from school, you take them places, etc. But they can be times of the biggest battles, internally within yourself. Not all battles are out there screaming, shouting, everything. I'm there for you. And so are a lot of other people as well, and just reach out.
Thank you, Coco. No, thank you so much for giving me your time today. I think the listeners, hopefully they manage to take something away from this for their own lives, and more clued on to what might be going on in other people's lives. Be kind always. And so thank you, Coco.